Life FM.
Life FM.
Today, the Life FM roadies have the absolute honour and privilege of visiting some group of volunteers here from Open Heart International. Now, they go overseas to help in third world countries for children and young people that need heart transplants. So, here we are. Hi. I have Cherie, Melissa and Rachel from there, and we are going to present them with the Heart for Adelaide Award. Right.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much. Thank you.
And we'd just like to say that we'd like to honour you and say a big thank you for all that you've done for people overseas that would not have the quality of life if it hadn't been for you sacrificing your time and money and going over and helping these people. So thank you from Life FM. Okay, so do you want to introduce yourselves and say how long you've been part of Open Heart International?
Hi, I'm Cherie and I've been part of Open Heart International for 6 years now, sorry.
So my name's Melissa and I've been a part of Open Heart International for about 5 years.
My name's Rachel. I've been part of OHI for 2 years.
Wow. So what does it mean for you to be part of Open Heart International? What do you give up in order to go over there?
We do give up time, annual leave, but I think that we get way more than what we give out of every trip that we go to. So I've never actually viewed it as I'm losing anything. I've gained so much throughout this, whether or not it's friends, knowledge, experience, but also just being able to recognise that we take for granted the ability to have a healthcare system that can provide for us, whereas we go to these second and third world countries where they don't have that ability. And, you know, if we didn't go, these children wouldn't survive, you know, or these adults that we do surgeries on would have such a limited life capacity. So I think even though we do give up annual leave or, you know, some kind of monetary provision, it's actually that we're actually giving life.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think it's giving up anything. I think it's it works with a global effect, not only locally. So locally, we make the decision to go. We apply to get on the team, and then hopefully we're accepted for the team that we've applied for. And part of the fundraising effort is expanding the knowledge of people around you to be able to inform them of what you're doing so that they can help contribute to the funds of where you go.
Absolutely. And then so I think seeing the benefit, like say in Cambodia, they're quite far along in the process. So this last trip they physically did nearly everything and we were just supervising the surgeries and the intensive care. So seeing their progression and their skill building, it's really amazing, and knowing that one day they won't need us anymore and they'll be self-sufficient and they'll have access to the things that we have access to here.
And there's a certain complement of places that we go that we teach to empower. So the primary reason to go there in some of these places is so that we can teach them to be self-sufficient. Other places don't have the span of the available equipment or the knowledge or the medical and nursing staff to be able to support that. So then we go in and do our thing and then fly out. But part of OHI's philosophy is to make sure that we leave them a little bit more knowledgeable than when we first came.
Yeah. And if you go back and visit the same place, do you see that things are starting to change?
Absolutely.
Yeah. See the impact?
Yeah. And your SIDS often get to meet the patients that have had surgery on previous trips.
Oh wow.
And which is awesome.
So that's a huge gift in itself to you. It's so rewarding.
And a lot of the time we do work with the same nursing and medical staff, and you do see what your knowledge that you've given to them is utilised in, you know, the trips coming back. So I'd done 2 trips to Tonga, and the same nurses that had been on the first trip had, some of them had come back on the second one, and just their ability to utilise what we've given them knowledge-wise, or night shift education where I write things down on bits of paper and draw diagrams. They'd made them into scrapbooks, and they've got them
really?
as an education resource.
Oh,
And they keep it.
so
And they
everything
keep it.
is valuable.
And they say, we go away and we've shown all the other nurses this, and 10 times the amount of nurses on the first trip wanted to do the second trip.
Yeah.
They want to be part of this teaching and this ability to be part of their intensive care, because they don't have that normally.
They're really respectful of when we come over as well. So they, the wonderful thing is that I remember my first trip was to Tonga a couple of years ago, and I remember one particular time, every night they would put on a thank you sort of food festival thing for us. And I remember one night we were across the road from this massive hall, and we went over to the hall, and we walked in and we looked down to the right. I think there was 300 people. 300 people sort of like in church pews, and on the right there were all these red velvet seats with gold embossed crowns on them. We're like, oh, who's coming? Royalty's coming. And it actually turned out that the seats were for us, and we were all looking at how we were dressed and stuff, and thinking, oh God, no, we're not dressed well enough to be going down there. So we were all really humbled at the fact that they'd gone to this trouble, and they got people from the choirs all around. So this was in Tonga, people from around Tonga to come, and they sang to us for 3 hours as an appreciation.
That's so beautiful.
And that's something that no amount of money or time or anything can buy. That was really
that was out the whole time.
It was a very emotional experience because, we come in for those 2 weeks and we give that expertise, but they view it as we're changing their entire life. And they say, each church likes to be able to say thank you one way or another, and they say we have very little money, but what we do have, we want to help and support what you've done to us.
And they'll cook for us like in the community, so the women, random people will go home and cook and bring amazing food every day.
To the
So
hospital.
we get food sent to us every day to the hospital, and it's just
so you don't
women.
need to worry about cooking?
No. And sometimes it's people that aren't necessarily parents of a child, they're just people that know that we're there and are appreciating what we're doing for that place. And will absolutely spoil us rotten. I mean, we just get so well.
You feel like a rock star.
You do.
And it's really humbling because you think, and I think, like if we talk about Tonga, for instance, because we've all been to Tonga, like Tonga's a special place in all of our hearts.
Very special.
Some of the, if you're in Australia and you have a tooth abscess or something, when you're small, the potential is that the infection can go to the valve in your heart and stop it from being able to close properly when it's supposed to. But somewhere like Tonga, they live in communities, they have one dentist for 100,000 people, one cardiologist, so heart doctor for 100,000 people. So they don't necessarily get these heart valve issues picked up until they're later on, older on in their age. And then they become teenagers and they can't run as fast or as far, and they get short of breath and those sorts of things. So being able to replace that tiny valve in their heart completely changes the rest of their lives. And we've had women that have had the surgery and had a valve replacement or some other type of cardiac surgery, and they've gone on to have children and grandchildren. And then they come back, and that's just
bring back generations that would not have happened without that surgery.
Because they would have died.
I think even my first trip was very humbling, knowing that it was a 4-year-old that had never got out of bed because his heart function was so poor that he didn't have any capacity to move, had never kicked a football, never run. We did the operation the next day. He's jumping up and down on the bed, like he was speechless. His dad was crying because his dad had literally carried him to get him to the hospital. He lived hours away so that he could have this life-changing surgery. He didn't actually even know whether or not it could be changed, what was happening, but he just heard that we were coming. And so he got him there and then found that it was something that was quite easily fixable, but without surgery would never actually, he wouldn't have a life that was sustainable. So, this child that has gone from nothing to everything.
In a
day.
That was a story we'll never forget.
Jumping up and down on a bed, and he didn't know that he could do that. We bring across everything, give them little gifts or things that they can use. Kicking a football with him.
Having a football to kick.
Rachel and a few of the other nurses brought along cricket gear last time and donated to the local school. These things that they don't have.
And just.
You've got to take presents.
Yeah, we take presents full of presents.
The whole year.
Yeah.
We were on the search for presents. So something special we buy 20 of them.
Yeah, even as much as little Australian flags,
they
they will love an Australian flag.
Australians.
From the age group of 2 to 60, if you give them a flag, their face just lights up. Like they're just amazed that they've got something to call their own and to take away from what we've been there for. So it's amazing.
So tell us what it's like when you arrive and how you set up to actually do the operations. So you have equipment there?
So I think each place is different. So it depends on what their own resources are and how far along in the program they are as well. So for example, Tonga, we take everything. So as Sri was saying earlier, up to 4 tonnes of equipment. So everything that we're going to use, we take, and that's from theatre to the intensive care to the ward. That's drugs, that's syringes, that's monitors, that's breathing machines, that's absolutely everything. Cambodia, however, they are further along, so they provide everything. So we are trying to work within what they have, so that when we're not there, they can do these things on their own in the very near future. So it depends. So the setup period is different depending on what we've taken and what we need to set up. As Cherie said earlier, some in Tonga, there is no intensive care, so we literally set it up. It's just an empty room and we turn it into an intensive care unit. Cambodia, they already have an intensive care unit, so we work within their already existing area.
So you started from scratch in some
places you started from scratch and then you pack everything down and you ship it all home.
Wow.
And usually leave consumables and things like that there and just bring all the main equipment because you don't want to use all of their resources. We don't want to take away from what they're doing for their own people. By us being there, we don't want to be a hindrance. So so we take everything, so we're not using this.
I remember the first trip, we had these huge containers full of equipment in this empty room. It was so overwhelming going, how are we going to do this? But we all just chipped in, and within the space of 4 hours we'd set up both a theatre and an intensive care unit ready to for the next morning to be straight away. So we sort of got off the plane, we went to the hospital and we went straight there and started, because the faster you do it, the faster you can start the first surgery. The more cases you can get in. So
and it's all about doing as many people as possible.
Do you find it hard then? You get to the end of your time there, do you find that you have to say no?
Yeah.
That would be
so there's a screening process initially. So a cardiologist will go over and a sonographer will go over first, and they will basically screen the potential people. And it's a bit of a balance of finding people that will likely recover well from the surgery, but people that without the surgery now will do very poorly. There are people that are so sick and their heart disease is so severe that if it's unlikely that they'll survive the surgery, some of those people have to miss out, unfortunately.
Is that hard? You see that?
It is hard. But there have been some real miracle. I know the first Tonga trip, a girl came back and danced for us, Tonga dancing, and put on a show for us, and she actually nearly died. So she had her surgery the trip before that, so 2 years before that, and she ended up in kidney failure, liver failure, I think everything, and they really thought she was going to die. And by the grace of God, she got through it, and now she's dancing for us and does shows for us, and she's just beautiful.
And not only dancing, she's walking miles
Yeah,
to get to the
get
place
there,
where we
to
were
dance.
dancing.
For, I mean,
Really?
it's
We didn't
incredible.
realise
She wanted to see you.
We drove past her and we didn't realise that it was her. And then later on she rocks up and she's doing this dance at this dinner that we're at, and we're like, oh my god, she's walked miles.
Yeah.
We could have picked you up.
We could have taken her if we knew.
Yeah.
But I think there's always a waiting list. So if we happen to be able to get through patients, you know, we've been able to sometimes do a few extras, which is always nice. That's not always the case. But, you know, these poor people sit there for almost 2 weeks, sometimes just praying and hoping
Really?
that they'll be part of that. But if we don't do them this time, we try then in the next 2 years that we come to actually be able to do the surgery if they're actually available. Sometimes they live quite far away. It's not just a car ride down. And so, you know, we try to be able to do the best for them at that time. We had this one gentleman that had a tooth abscess at the very beginning, and they pulled the tooth because they have to have no infection when they go under surgery. And then because of the medication that he was on, he kept on bleeding. And so his surgery just kept on getting put off, to the point where we didn't think we were going to be able to do his surgery. And he was so stoic throughout this whole time. And every day when we said, not today, Anthony, not today, Anthony. And he was like, okay. And then the day before we left, we said, we're going to do it. And he just cried and cried like a baby. And he said, thank you, I just didn't think I was ever going to get it done. So,
And he did really well.
and he did so well.
Yeah.
And it was just, you know, I think we weren't going to be doing any more surgeries, but like, we can't leave him here. We have to do it.
I mean, you do get
And
really attached to the
It was just
Very quickly.
very quickly.
It was just so amazing to see that he was actually able to go home, and we'll probably see him
see him
this
time.
year. So,
So
yeah.
when do you leave for your next trip?
September. So the beginning of September we go.
Have you already been on a trip?
So I've just come back from Cambodia, and Rachel's just about to go to Fiji.
Yeah.
So, but they're all really different trips, like different dynamics, different cultures. Obviously, how we fit into their, you know, culture varies. You know, language.
In Fiji, they speak some English, so is that easier than, say, Tonga?
I haven't been to Fiji before.
Okay, so you don't know.
But we're lucky enough to have a Fijian girl coming on the team, so hopefully I'm buddied with her, so she'll be a good translator.
I did Fiji a few years ago, and and I found that the language barrier wasn't too bad there.
I think that there's a certain sort of group of Fijians, the Indian Fijians, that their language barrier is a little bit greater than the Fijian Islanders, but they make a very big ability to try and understand or have someone to be able to translate for them. So
you don't take someone necessarily that translates, or there's just someone
No,
there
in
that
Cambodia there's a local Cambodia who is studying to be an interpreter, so he's part of the team, so he joins the team every time now, but he's over there and we meet him there. None of the other trips I've been on actually have
Not intentionally.
No.
Not intentional interpreter. Because
It would be hard though, like with the sonographer and everything, they've got to assess this person, but they can't speak.
I mean,
to
it's
them.
often like Rachel said before, the nurses generally and the doctors, the local nurses and doctors have some reasonable language. And because a lot of their learning, you know, a lot of resources are in English, you know, so they are actually really quite good. So even though families and parents and the children might not understand a word we're saying, we really rely heavily on the local staff to help us bridge that language barrier.
And some of the, like, I went to Papua New Guinea last year, some of the nurses are from the international nurses anyway, so in Papua New Guinea we had quite a lot of Filipino nurses, and they've been in PNG for quite a while, so they'd learnt their language, so they were able to help translate as well.
But you just do the best. You just manage. You just.
And they're the most
They trust us.
trusting
They
people
really trust us.
because we can. They'll allow us to do whatever we need to do, and they trust 100% that we're not going to harm them, that we're only there to do them good.
So how long can you see yourself doing this? How many more years do you reckon you'll do it?
Forever.
Yeah, definitely forever.
Till the day I die.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
at least one trip a year.
reckon I could probably have a walking stick and still do that.
Yeah.
If they let me.
Wheelchair. As long as the mouth works. we'll be fine.
I think for myself, I would love to do more than one trip a year, and that's what I'm sort of trying to look at doing. I think, the more trips, the merrier. I would love to go to Tanzania or Rwanda, but just that's a fair more distance away, and so the amount that we need to fundraise for that is far greater than the more local trips, and so just getting that fundraising, that ability, donations, all those things help to be able to do more than one trip a year.
I think we'd all like to do it full time if we could.
Yeah, it sounds
We had the resources
That'd be amazing.
to just be able to travel around the world and do things for people that they can't do themselves.
Just the look of gratitude on all their faces, and that's the patients, the families, the doctors, the nurses, the taxi driver that won't take your fare.
No, you're free. We don't charge you.
I think that makes up for anything. Like I said, I think at the beginning, what we give, we get back 10 times. Far outweighs what we give. And so, if I could do it, full time, I would love to do it full time.
Well, we just want to say thank you for all you do for the community and for abroad, and thank you for sharing your stories with
Can
us.
I just say, I just want to do a special mention to Michael Weir, who is actually the coordinator of Operation Open Heart, or OHI as we're now known as. He spends hours and hours making sure that these trips run smoothly, that everything is coordinated from airfares, accommodation.
We're talking 50 staff, all from all around Australia and sometimes international.
All the back work, getting the donations through, because each heart transplant or cardiac surgery, if you're here in Australia, costs roughly around about $50,000. And so in order for us to have the equipment, this has taken years and years of donations, of fundraising, to make sure that this is actually possible, that we can actually go. Without him, without Sydney Adventist Hospital, none of this is actually available. So I just wanted to do a special mention to Michael.
No.
Hey Michael!
And I know there's only 3 of you that could be here today, but many more. We've got certificates for them too. So
Right.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Life FM.